lately.
When the right people come together at the right moment, when they care almost as much about winning as they do about each other, they can become the best of the best.
Welcome to the best soccer show, the best soccer show in the whole world.
Here we go. It's the best soccer show. Jason Davis, Jared Dubois. Live on a Thursday evening. That my days of the week this week, all kinds of messed up. Don't know what day it is.
It's
Don't
the
know what day it
holiday.
is.
The holiday did it.
The holiday did it.
Dude, are my lips gleaming? I used some balm.
I don't know. Your lips-
I used some balm from my man Freddie in the
yeah, put that
Patreon.
over.
My
Yeah.
man Freddie in the Patreon sent me a
There
little
you go.
balm. So
I have
thank
some
you for the
balm.
balm and beer.
I have some balm and some beer. I did get some balm and
Shout
some
out
beer
to
and
Fr-
some
to
soap.
Freddie.
I got some soap. You get some soap?
Got some soap. My kid are using it for their pits because they smell like Florida men.
Well, they smell like Florida. We were just saying, we are live. It is Thursday night. We're going to talk about the Gold Cup and Jesus Ferreira and BJ Callahan and Jackson Ewell and all kinds of American soccer stuff. I don't know. We should talk about Jordi Alba. We should talk about Sergio Busquets. We should talk about Lionel Messi. We should talk about Neymar. Jared, do you know about Neymar? Have you heard about Neymar?
I
Do you
know he's
know
a Brazilian.
About Neymar. Okay, well,
And I
maybe
know
we'll
that
talk about that.
Gio Reyna thinks he's better than Ronaldinho.
We'll talk about the Neymar thing that came up today, maybe on this show.
We should talk
But-
about the fact that you can get our Patreon. You can get the pre-show.
Oh man, you just killed it. I was about to get there. I was
Oh,
leading
my
up to
bad.
that. Okay. No, we had a very fun little chat in the pre-show, which wasn't about soccer. I think BJ came up. I can say it that way, right?
There's
BJ
some
came up.
there's a little bit of bathroom talk. There's a few different things. We learned
Way
about
to
your
sell it.
schedule.
Way to sell it. Bathroom talk. Way
We
to
learned about your
sell it.
schedule. We learned about your schedule a bit.
If you want access to the pre-show for the best soccer show, when we are probably our most candid, at our most, probably the most we're going to be.
Usually
Jason
it's
and
when
Jared.
you're at your most angry. When you come in, sometimes you're hot, like technical issues, whatever it is.
Sometimes. Not
You
always.
come in
I was
kind of
in a-
hot.
I'm in a great mood today.
No, you were pleasant today.
I'm in a great mood today. We had fun making Nick turn bright red, which is also you
Yeah.
can't see that when you listen to the pre-roll.
The
But
pre-rolls
maybe
at
you-
the best of the best tier of the best soccer show Patreon. But after the show today, we already know that Nick has teased to us that he's drinking things other than beer. And if you know Nick, that's a big deal. And we're gonna figure out what that is and find out a little bit about what he's been spending his time partying at. In
The only thing I know about Nick's drinking habits is that he one time had a margarita. One time he had a margarita, and
it
he
was
likes
blended.
to drink. What's the beer he drinks in garages, Jared? I should know this.
It's
What
gotta
kind
be
of
something
beer?
like it's probably something like Old English or Milwaukee's Best.
Did you just say Old English? Oh my god! Do you know?
It's a malt
That's
liquor, I know.
not-
I gave Nick way too much credit on that one.
like Steel Reserve in
Far
garages?
more. It's far more likely to be Milwaukee's Best.
I don't think it's Beast.
He's looking at me
I
like
don't
I'm
think it's
crazy,
Beast.
but he's
No.
gonna be like, "You're crazy." It's Miller Lite, like that's different.
Well, but okay, he's shaking his head.
Nick, you
We're-
wanted to
we're-
you want to defend yourself, Nick?
Well, this is for the bonus show. We said this was for the bonus.
Well, what he
Nick.
drinks now, he can tell us what he drinks now. What's his beer of choice?
Summer
Vince-
Shandy.
Summer
Oh, well, what's
Shandy.
come again?
Lining
Summer
Kugel.
Shandy.
Isn't that Lining Kugels?
Summer
See, I
Shandy.
I know what I'm know over here. I know it is a very summery beer. It leans a little too heavy on the lemon for me, but there's also a Sam Adams right now that has
Oh,
the
okay.
same sort of vibe called
Well,
Port
maybe I'll
Charlotte.
try it.
Should try that one. I'm
I hear you're
not
trying
you
new
know,
things.
Stumping. All right, Nick. Thank you very much for that information. Nick is here. The phone lines are here. That means when Nick is here, the phone lines are open, right?
Yeah, we're working on it.
Okay. So they're not quite there yet, but we will maybe be able to take your phone calls. We'll certainly throw your comments up on the show. Nick is drinking a Skyline Chili smoothie. Wow. Is that
Is that a
like,
smoothie or is that like one of those like remember Fear Factor?
no,
Like,
I just
that's
wonder
something
if,
that'll be on a Fear Factor.
I wonder if that counts as like discrimination that Vince is out here throwing out around allegations like,
oh yeah, like
Skyline-
poutine is an amazing food.
it actually is. If you have poutine, it's really
Cheese
good.
curd.
It's great. You don't like cheese. I
You know,
forgot that
anything
you're a
with the word
weirdo.
curd in it, dude.
You're a weirdo. Cheese curds are good. Cheese curds are good. Okay, you're missing out on
It's
that.
already the food that just sat around too long got hard. Now you're going to eat like this sloppy, chunky part of what got hard. Gross.
Cheese is basically curdled milk, but it make it really tasty, and it goes well with other things. All right, we're here to talk about soccer, right? What we're trying to do.
Maybe.
You and I haven't been together since what? The Gold Cup started?
Nations League semifinal, I believe.
I mean, wow.
I can't remember if
that.
this final had happened last time we talked or not. It was
Well, we beat
Thursday
Canada
before I
2-0.
went to Tahoe.
I didn't know if you knew that, but we beat Canada 2-0 because Canada. Bleh. Now, I'll see Canada again.
Wait. Are we saying that our team's like not good? That Canada's bad? Is that also Mexico? Mexico's bad. We're not good. Is that where we're taking this?
No, I'm saying Canada talked a big game and couldn't back it up. So shout out Vince. Hey Vince, what's up, bud? That's okay. Look, I mean, they didn't show up in that game like they wanted to. They obviously have some very good players. This is a different team in the Gold Cup, just like it's a different team for the U.S. men's national team, and it's a quarterfinal on Sunday. Now, is it wrong for me to have? I think we said this ahead of the Mexico game, right? I have no fear here. I'm not concerned about this. Should I be
at the A team level? I mean, at the B team level, I'm not sure. I haven't seen what team Canada brought. I'm assuming some of their A players are not there.
If Hannibal leads the A team, who leads the B team?
Ooh, man. I think it's Face.
Good question. Face? No, you just
Face
elevate Face. No, but I'm saying like it's not. Oh,
they're coming to bring someone off the bench, is what you're saying?
I'm saying if Hannibal, Face, Murdoch, and B.A. Baracus are the A team, well, you got who's the B team? Like, is it like
Shadow
is
Squad?
It like DC for Krakus? I mean, I don't know, for Granite.
Sergeant Slaughter.
It could be. Yeah, it could be Sergeant.
They were
Slaughter.
just pulling up random wrestlers and making them stars in the '80s, right? But they're doing that now too. I mean, you think about The Rock, The Big Show. They're doing the same thing now. Like wrestling is the playground for future Hollywood.
I mean, okay, if we're gonna go, I just saying, okay, we got the B team for both of these countries or whatever. This team is.
I feel confident that our B team can win this the Gold Cup. But the Jamaica game gives me pause. The Jamaica game was, I think, harder than some people might have thought. But this is Jamaica's best, or close to their best, team that they're bringing out.
Yeah,
I also think there was a feeling out period, especially for BJ Callahan, in figuring out what his best 11 is with this B side. I think everyone thought Zendejas it was going to be his team. And it was going to be centered around him, and he struggled to get going a little bit. I think he's starting to round in a little bit, but I'm not sure.
This is an interesting exercise. Right, this is an interesting exercise when it comes to this Gold Cup and the lineups that BJ Callahan has thrown out there. Another one. This is obviously a team made up of a bunch of players that haven't really proven themselves with the A group. Now, a couple of them, Matt Turner went to the World Cup. Obviously, he's fine. Jesus Ferreira went to the World Cup. I know most people think that he played, the worst half as a forward that any American has ever played.
Oh, I thought it was Haji Wright.
World Cup. Haji Wright or Jesus, for both of them were so bad at the World Cup, right? Yeah, just go ahead and take your pick. I mean, but outside of that, where is the player that look? Miles missed the World Cup because of injury. Yep. We're talking about young players in a number of spots. Nobody here is like, okay, we really trust them, right? We trust them so much that we know, except for the goalkeeper, right?
Yeah.
But so this is my point. Like when you look at the team that BJ rolled out against Jamaica, this is the team he played against Jamaica.
Yeah.
Matt Turner, DeAndre Yedlin, Matt Miazga, Aaron Long. Aaron Long came off at half for Jalen Neal. Mm-hmm. John Tolkien, Aiden Morris, James Sands, Zendejas, Sonora, Jordan Morris, and Jesus Ferreira. Now, two of those guys aren't even with the team anymore. They're out. They're gone. They went home. In the case of
another
Sonora,
two, I don't think have seen much time since in Aaron Long and Jordan Morris.
And DeAndre Yedlin, I don't think has played.
He came in as a sub at the last game.
Came off
like I said, I think BJ Callahan is figuring out as this tournament goes on where his strengths are. I think that some of the bright spots so far that you've just seen get stronger and stronger as the tournament go on. Brian Reynolds has emerged as a true right back backup option, even for the A squad. I think.
Oh, you think? Based on this performance? Wow.
Yeah, I still think Scally is ahead of him, but I think third man, if we're talking about Shaq Moore before we're talking DeAndre Yedlin, wouldn't you put him in somewhere in the mix, if not above them?
So what's interesting about this group, too, is that there's a lot of sort of like showcase this guy stuff happening here, right? And in some cases, it may be work permit, although I think the rules have changed in England so that getting a work permit out of an MLS is a lot easier.
seems
I
a
know
little
Brian
easier now,
Reynolds
yeah.
not. Brian Reynolds isn't in MLS, but I think he'd be fine for that reason. But you look at this group, and you don't have guys that are sort of even established in their club situations. Where's Brian Reynolds going to play his soccer next year, Jared? Do you know? Because I don't know. I don't know.
He's still owned by Roma, right?
He's still owned by Roma. He was at Westerlo.
I don't expect him to be at Roma, though.
Talks about him going to Premier League or
This is what the
Championship
Gold Cup's
squad.
for, though. Like a guy like him, be able to showcase and looking very good, speedy, great with the ball going forward.
But my point is, you said that he could be a viable backup at right back, and I like him, and I think he's looked very good in this tournament. But he's got to be playing consistently.
Agreed.
When he gets back to his club team, whatever that club team is, before you can go like, okay, this is a guy that we're suddenly installing as, if not the backup right back, then the third guy on the depth chart. And, normally you don't take that guy to a tournament, but there's always a chance with injury.
That playing consistently at someplace even like Westerlo or something like that, or even as a second option at Roma, may still be a higher level than DeAndre Yedlin or Shaq Moore in the MLS.
Okay. I mean, that's fair.
It's a conversation to be had.
Yeah, that's okay. But that's, again, this tournament, and this is going back to the point about the performance against Jamaica and how, there seemed to be a feeling out period. And I don't know that that's an excuse. I don't think it should be. If you're the top dog in the region, it shouldn't feel that difficult to put it together to beat even Jamaica, right? And even with that firepower they have up top, you should still look better than that against Jamaica, especially with the midfield level and some of those other things that Jamaica brings to the table. And yet there is that, right? Okay, what does our best team look like? We think this is our best team. Look at that except for Tolkien, look at that experience across the back line as a professional, as a U.S. men's national team player.
I see why BJ would go to that four. I do see why you would go to that four, especially against your toughest opponent in the group. I see why he made the decisions he did. I think if he was going to play that game again now, do you think he'd play the same four?
Well, I think it's also worth pointing out that Miles Robinson wasn't quite fit yet again after the Nations League, right? So he wasn't. I think that maybe if Miles was 100% ready to go, one of Miazga or Long would have sat down, right? I don't know why they were necessarily. Well, okay, I guess. Look, 19 years old, whatever. I guess you're hesitant on Jalen Neal until you see it, right? Until you really get a look at it.
Once you see it,
well, once you see it, you're hooked for life. I think the midfield has kind of rounded out the way it has by necessity. I mean, you could argue for Roldan, I guess, just based on experience. Busio is the guy that, as we go ahead to this Canada game, you kind of wonder, is that the guy that kind of gets left out here? Because you would expect Canada to be a little bit more dangerous, certainly more dangerous than St. Kitts and Nevis and Trinidad and Tobago were.
obviously.
And so does that mean that you can't risk playing out? I don't know. Gianluca Busio is not a defensive midfielder. He's not a slouch as a defender. I don't think that's fair to say. But his best attribute is his passing ability. So do you need somebody who's more active
for that kind of, so
you do. That's what, but from different places in the field. Mihailovic is going to push up into the attack. He's going to be a late arriving player in the box. I know Busio got his own goal that way in that game against Trinidad and Tobago. But it's like, I don't know. I don't know. You tell me what you think of the balance of this midfield and the choices that BJ has.
The hard part is that he's been shorted some choices in Aiden Morris leaving the team. It's not quite as much to choose from as there once was. Sonora also not available.
Who didn't look good. Fair to say he didn't look good.
Yeah,
I
which
wasn't impressed
was
by
surprising to me.
Sonora.
He was one of the two players I really thought would be able to put a stamp on the Gold Cup between him and Zendejas both. So I think you might have seen the best midfield they can put out last game. I think it's a practical lineup. I think James Sands, who at times has looked one of the better players, and Jimmy Toucan Sands.
Jimmy Toucan Sands. Mm-hmm.
Jimmy Toucan Sands. I think he's both like sometimes the best player and sometimes off a little bit. And I think that's just kind of who he is. But he's doing the job of that defensive midfield, and I think that's someone that you can stick with. And I think Busio and Mihailovic are maybe the best other two midfielders you can put in, because Busio will give you a bit of defensive pressure. I don't know if he's a great tackler or anything like that.
I think he's good in possession. I think he's good with ball retention, which I think is something
I think he can move the ball around, and I think the important thing is, can he get to the feet of Georgi Mihailovic? If he can do that, then that's your guy, because Georgi Mihailovic shouldn't be in tracking situations all the time. And he'll have to do it from time to time, but you want him there for a change of a possession and then initiating a counterattack or moving the ball through tight spaces. Like you saw it in the goal for, man, I think it was the third goal in the
There were
Jamaican
lots of
game
goals.
when he split two defenders into the left channel.
This is Trinidad
great ball
Tobago
playing
you're talking about.
I believe it was the Trinidad and Tobago game.
Okay.
One of his assists. I mean, he just has great vision and he can play a great ball. It's very similar to Gio Reyna and the ball he played for Flo Balogun. Not a lot of midfielders in our stable can make that weighted pass. You know, they can put it into the channel, but can they put it into the channel with the right weight for the on-running?
Right. So
attacker?
instead of forcing your teammate into a cul-de-sac where he's got to turn around, make a choice,
Or it's
maybe
out of
slow
bounds
things
across the
down.
end line.
Or of course, it could be across the end line. Yeah, you're putting up your player, you're putting your teammate in a position.
So I wouldn't change anything in that midfield. And like, is it sexy? No. I mean, but I don't know that there's much of a better option.
But I'm not sure that there is anything you say it's not sexy. I mean,
Aiden
I think
Moore's would be sexier than Busio.
Would he really?
I think
Busio?
so.
I don't think that's true at all.
You'd rather play Busio instead of Aiden Morris.
I'm saying that in terms of having the ball and what we do with it, Gianluca Busio is more effective than Aiden Morris. I'm not saying Aiden Morris isn't a good player or that I don't like his industry from that position, but I think that Gianluca Busio is a much better passer than Aiden Morris, which I think is what
I will say this, though. I think if Canada's going to beat us someplace, midfield's where they can beat us. They still have Estacio and Osorio in this lineup.
No, Estacio's not. He's not there. Is Estacio there?
2023 Gold Cup roster for Canada.
Yeah, I believe he pulled out. Can
he pull out?
Can Vince confirm this for me? I don't think that.
I apologize. I'm
Estacio's
looking at
team.
with the roster that was on the site. So if he pulled out,
I believe he
then
pulled out.
apologize.
Yeah,
that's a huge loss then.
He pulled out. He pulled out. Just say that. Just put it out there. He
made
pulled
a mess
out.
of it.
Okay? He just pulled out. That's all he did. Go ahead.
Okay, so in that case, that changes a little bit. I'm a little bit worried about their midfield if Estacio's there. They said he and
Atakube pulled out.
Okay,
they both pulled out at the same time. Synchronized pullings out. Yeah,
man,
clever.
It's
clever. Canadians, they got
It's impressive actually.
Yeah.
All right, so then I think the midfield matchup ends up being pretty close to a draw then because you still have Osorio over there for them. I think Canada can still match up, but I don't think they have.
I mean, they're going to be dangerous. Right.
They're not going to be as fast as they were. I mean, you don't have a lot of the speed that Canada usually has with their A team.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the team that beat Cuba, right? Because they had to beat Cuba in order to make the knockout phase. And obviously they finished second in the group, which I think we're all surprised by, right? The idea was Canada was going to top their group. The United States needed to beat Jamaica to first place in Group A to avoid a quarterfinal against Canada and potentially a semifinal against Mexico. Well, Canada botched that by finishing second in their group to Guatemala. So now we have this, right? Now you look at, so this is the lineup that John Herdman rolled out against Cuba. Dane St. Clair, Richie Larea, Zach McGraw, Kamal Miller, Ali Ahmed, Jonathan Osorio, Bombito, Frazier, Hoylett, Cavallini, and Miller up top. And again, like Cavallini is a step down from the trio of Davies and David and Laren.
But for like if you play a young center back like Jalen Neal, that's a physical attacker to go up against.
Cavallini is a monster, yes, that way. Yes,
I mean, Jalen Neal, if he plays in that game, and I kind of expect him to at this point, I think that is a different test. Garcia for Trinidad and Tobago, which is more matched up with Tolkien a lot. I think maybe that's probably the toughest matchup that any defender is going to have in this Gold Cup. That player looked fantastic for. Did I say Jamaica? I meant Trinidad and Tobago.
By the way, when talking about the U.S. midfield, I know we're just kind of like working our way through this matchup, but talking about the U.S. midfield, we haven't mentioned Jackson Ewell. Okay, so let's address what happened in the last couple of days with the change in the roster. Eric saying, too bad they didn't bring in Keaton Parks or Timothy Tillman instead of Ewell. They haven't gotten a look yet, question mark, or exclamation point. I see this as, and maybe I'm wrong, right? I know there's a lot of theories out there that this is Greg's guy. Jackson Ewell is in this team now because Greg Berhalter's pulling BJ's strings or whatever, puppet mastering BJ Callahan. And maybe that's the case, right? I can't prove that it's not. But to me, this just seems like a practical choice. And I don't expect that they want to turn to Jackson Ewell. I think they want to roll with the guys they've already had in this team.
Yeah, and there's a point to the Jackson Ewell conversation I don't see anyone making, and I don't know why. But do people not realize he's on yellow card suspension?
He can't
play for San Jose.
He's on yellow card suspension for San Jose. I mean, he doesn't miss a game.
So
during
if you're
this.
BJ Callahan, you're pulling players from clubs on very short notice for a lot of these clubs that are pulling guys in right now. It's a practical choice to not do a lot of harm to a club team.
It just doesn't make any sense to call up NYCFC, who already has released James Sands for this thing, and say, "Hey, we really want Keaton Parks. Hey, can you let him go for this?" And look at where NYCFC is in the table right now. Like, look how much they need Keaton Parks, who's played basically every minute of the season for them, right? And then there are other players across the league where the idea of taking them out of their club situation right now doesn't make a lot of sense. And it's not that I don't want to see Timothy Tillman get a chance, but what coach is going to be comfortable with bringing in a first-time call-up in the middle of the Gold Cup when you're hitting the knockout stage? Quarterfinals, semifinals, final. Who's going to be comfortable with that? Like,
and also, when you look at the club situation in LAFC as well, I mean, Kellen DeCosta hasn't put in more than 45 minutes since
hasn't played. He's been hurt.
You pull Timothy Tillman, you're doing a lot of damage to LAFC. Now, granted, some people will be like, it doesn't matter. It's a FIFA window. Screw them as clubs. MLS shouldn't be playing in these windows anyway. They got a point, but BJ Callahan also realizes that he has to have a relationship with these teams. And I mean, it is a hard thing to do to say, hey, give me one of the guys you need right now in the middle of the season. Or you can pull Jackson Ewell, a serviceable, if not sexy, defensive midfielder that can't even play for his team now.
We are past the point of this being like, here's a sandbox. Go figure out what toys you want to play with you've never seen before. Try that thing out. Does that work? No, let me switch over to this thing. Like, we're past that point now. Now it's about title defense, right? And with the group that you've got, and we all question Gianluca Busio being in this team. And I know St. Kitts and Nevis, Trinidad and Tobago combined ranking like 210 or something like that. Like, I get it. You know, they're not good, but he's looked okay in the tournament. Like, I guess we'll get our real test now, right? We'll get our real test of this roster that was called up either just by BJ Callahan or by Greg Berhalter, puppet mastering BJ Callahan. In this next game, if they get past Canada, semifinal against who's going to be the semifinalist on that side?
It won't be Mexico. I think we meet Mexico in the final. If we meet, it's going to be Panama.
Well, let me.
Is it
let me
Qatar, Panama in the other matchup?
That sounds right. That sounds right.
I think it's Panama, Qatar in that other one.
Yes, it is Panama and Qatar, and then Jamaica and Guatemala are on the same side of the bracket with Mexico and Costa Rica. I think
that's the tougher side. I think that's definitely.
Oh, it definitely is. Right. It definitely is. And I think at this point, the United States is the favorite. Although that's maybe partly based on reputation coming into the tournament, because I don't know how much you take away from the 2-6-0 wins. With Jamaica pretty close second, if not 1A at this point. That's for me. And then Mexico could step up again and figure it out. I mean, I don't know.
Their team's talented enough to win the thing. It's just they have no confidence. There's no identity. I don't know, man. Like this patch of Mexican Federation history is just wrought with indecision and I think a lack of self-awareness. I don't think they know who they are anymore.
Right, let me ask you a question. By the way, phone lines are open, so you can call us up, 717-727-2378. If you want to put your voice into this thing, maybe you want to call up and defend Canada. I don't know. Are you even in a Schadenfreude kind of place with Mexico or Canada? You could toss Canada in there with some of the stuff that happened over qualifying. Like, are you in a place where you're kind of reveling in their suffering?
Summer shandy place? What'd you say?
A summer Schadenfreude. That's what I was saying. Yeah.
Not necessarily.
Have you ever been that person where you're like, I want Mexico to suffer? Have you ever been that
Only
fan?
against the U.S. I honestly, when it comes to the World Cup, I root for CONCACAF teams. I always root for CONCACAF teams. As long as the U.S. isn't playing them, I think our region doing well is a good thing.
It probably is in the big picture. It's hard for me as a petty person to get past the rivalry.
I would say I don't root for them in qualifying. I don't. I only would think about the USA in qualifying.
Sí, era penal. That's my opinion. That's just my opinion. It was definitely a penalty. It wasn't a flop in the World Cup in 2000. What was that 14? Is that 2014 we're talking about? Go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. So I have no problem wanting good things for Mexico when it comes to the World Cup. Yeah, as long as they're not playing the U.S., I think rising tide lifts all boats kind of thing for CONCACAF, because I think CONCACAF is not considered with much, whether warranted or not. It's not given much much run. Yeah. So every time we can make for example, like when Costa Rica made their big run. What was it in 2014?
2014. Yeah.
Like
Keylor
that
Navas
was
put on his head and all that. Yeah.
that's a fantastic thing for CONCACAF. The problem is, I think people forget really quickly.
They lost a penalty shootout to, I can't remember now.
Argentina?
Somebody's
sure.
somebody's going to remind me who they lost to. Yeah, I think in the round of
We don't have Eddie from Brooklyn in tonight.
quarterfinal. They lose the quarterfinal. Costa Rica. Yeah, where is Eddie? Where is Eddie from Brooklyn? It's been a while. That man hasn't stepped up to tell us how great Keylor Navas is in a while. Yeah. I don't think he's really high on his Costa Rica team right now. I know they made this knockout phase, but I don't think. And that's the thing. Like so much of this right now, Jared. And this is the Gold Cup again. Mexico didn't bring their best team.
No,
Keylor Navas isn't in this tournament for health reasons, not necessarily for they took their B team or something for Costa Rica. But it seems like this is more about everybody else kind of. I'm not saying the U.S. isn't great right now on some level. I think that, we saw in the Nations League they can really play. But a lot of this is like kind of everybody else sucks at the moment. It's
Matt's confirmed for his quarterfinal against the Dutch.
Okay. Thank you very much to Matt for that, remembering the 2014 World Cup. Does it feel like that for you? Because after you get past Canada, Mexico, Costa Rica, everything kind of drops off a cliff anyway.
Yeah.
Like, Honduras is a disaster right now. Obviously, El Salvador took a step forward and now it's taking kind of 2 steps back.
Hugo Perez it looks like he's lost the magic down there. That was the guy a lot of people were shouting for the U.S. job, and it's a struggle bus right now for El Salvador. So, listen, you know what you're going to get, CONCACAF. It's a 3 to 4 horse race. You pretty much know who's going to qualify every time. It's not fun in that
we definitely know
regard.
who's qualifying for 2026, which is where this becomes a problem. Right? And maybe we'll talk about the friendly
schedule. That's why you have to play big teams like
Oman
Oman.
and Uzbekistan?
Yeah, Uzbekistan.
Could you
powers.
pick Uzbekistan out on a map?
I could get
close. You get close?
I know all the stands are in the same area.
Central Asia kind of, okay. So give me, real quick, impromptu quiz. I don't know if I'd have to pull up the map because I used to work in
Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Afghanistan, Kyrgyzstan, and...
Kyrgyzstan?
Isn't it Kyrgyzstan?
Kyrgyzstan,
excuse me. Wow.
Okay. No, I just want to make sure we're talking about the same country because I might be wrong.
That's what I was talking about.
Kyrgyzstan. Okay.
What's left?
Did you say Tajikistan?
I didn't say Tajikistan.
You did not say Tajikistan. Okay. Now, this is also the part of the world that if you go across the Caspian Sea, on the other side you get Azerbaijan and Georgia and Armenia and all that, right? Yeah. And then obviously south of the Central Asian countries is Afghanistan. Right? Did you say Kazakhstan?
I said Kazakhstan. Yeah.
Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan?
No, I didn't get Turkmenistan.
Turkmenistan. Yeah, Matt's hooking it up. Okay, let's go to Vince up there in the Great White North. Wants to talk about this game. Let's see if I'm wrong for being as cocky about this game as I feel. Vince, what's up?
Hanging in there, guys. How are you guys doing?
Good, man. Good to talk to you, Vince.
I think Vince has been calling us for a decade, Jared.
About that.
More or less.
Yeah, wow. Thanks for making me feel old.
We're older than you, though, Vince.
We've been hanging out with you long enough that Canada sucked, got good, and got bad again.
No, you're not bad. Come on, Vince. You're not bad.
No, just the Federation.
Well, that too. Broke. Canada was bad, got good, got broke. The women's team they're working some stuff. They don't have any money either, but they're working some stuff. Vince, go ahead. Tell us what you think about the game on Sunday.
It's interesting. I don't want to take too long on the Nations League. I wanted to call you guys last week and chat about that, but the no phone lines last week.
Sorry about that.
I will say what happened with the Nations League set the stage for what we're seeing right now with the Gold Cup, and the Nations League final was the first time since 2019 when we got bounced by Haiti at the Gold Cup, where the media and the fan base have really reamed the team. No pun intended with Tim Ream, but they've really gone in on Herdman, his tactics, his personnel, his decision making, and on the players too. Their effort, their will to win. But that was a big thing that a lot of people questioned. This team did not look like they were up to play a final, and quick turnaround to the Gold Cup here. We open up at BMO Field in Toronto with a draw against Guadeloupe, and it's like, what's going on here? This is not supposed to be the Canada of today, right? But then you get into questions of our depth, Herdman wanting to try out new players. But the big issue I've had and a lot of people have had is Herdman's called in a lot of new guys and a lot of guys who are doing well for themselves, you know, in MLS, in Europe. But instead of using them, he's playing vets. He's playing Osorio, who, like, for my money, isn't fit. The dude hasn't been fit in like 2 years, and he's making him play 90 minutes plus. Dorian's still playing. Steven Vittoria's playing, who's also like 35. And, you know, when is his time going to be up? And the new guys who do play, he's playing them out of position. Zach McGraw is a central center back for Portland. He's playing out wide in a right center back and getting burned for pace. Moise Bombito, who's like, you know, a big center back prospect for Colorado, is being played as a 6 because Herdman is telling media, oh, Colorado and myself feel long term he's a number 6. And it's like, okay, but right now he's a center back. Play him at center back. And your actual, you know, defensive midfielders are stuck on the bench, like Victor Laturi, a guy who I've been watching since he was playing, you know, CPL ball in 2019, who's now playing in Scotland and, you know, looking good against the likes of Rangers and Celtic. It's been frustrating, man. It's been frustrating seeing this coach who had built up a lot of goodwill, kind of squandering it with his personnel decisions, with his tactics. We have a team for a 4-3-3. We're playing a 5-3-2. Why'd you call up so many wingers if you're not really going to play them? Yeah, okay. Ultimately, I don't expect to beat the U.S. The only thing I want to see, the only thing is some effort and guys being put in positions to succeed, or at least to their strengths, because that's not what we're getting right now. And if we lose 4-0 to the U.S., it's going to be because we're playing a center back at the 6. We're playing a winger as a wing back, and yeah, man, that's where I am right now with this Gold Cup.
I think you're identifying something that you said the word earlier in the conversation that has become all the more apparent, especially through the Leagues Cup and when it comes to Mexico, and I think also for Canada, and that's depth. The U.S. Nations League. I think that's one thing that even I don't think I was as convinced we were as deep as we were until you started watching as that Nations League went on, and you saw the guys that weren't getting minutes, and you see now at the Gold Cup. Like, I think that's the U.S. is maybe one of their biggest things that's a differentiator in CONCACAF right now is the depth of USA. I think both Canada and Mexico at the highest level can still match in a number of positions. Yes. I just don't think that they can match the depth at the second and third guy.
You know, and that whether you need that at various points. I mean, you know, part of the qualification process for Canada, which, you know, I'm sure Vince would agree with that they really leveraged home field advantage when they had it. Right. And they had difference makers when they went on the road to a place like the United States to draw with the Americans and to the Azteca. Right. That Davies and David and Larin in particular, Estacio in the midfield, those guys can play with anybody in the region. Yeah. But then you get into, okay, you need to play through a tournament. You need game. You know, you've got to the World Cup is a good example of this. Like, you just can't roll out the same group every single time and expect the same level of play. And I don't know, Vince, do you see a future with Herdman maybe botching an opportunity here a little bit? Because you look, as I've said with the U.S., you can't go fully experimental in this tournament. You want to win the thing, and you risk not even showing up and having a chance if you play a bunch of kids. But in Canada's situation, do you see Herdman figuring out how to improve the depth, or is it coming?
You know, that's a very interesting question, and I kind of go, you know, two ways about it. Before I mention that, I just want to mention one thing I want to say about the U.S. in qualifying is it feels like these days, at least, you know, I don't know if it's Callahan. I don't know if it's just the maturation of the U.S. pool. You guys are just bringing in your best players for the most part. Like, it still feels like during the World Cup qualification, when we drew you in Nashville, like, we were facing the likes of Sebastian Lletget, and no disrespect to Lletget, but the dude, you know, he isn't what he used to be, and then guys like John Brooks, who just, you know, for all the love he gets, was a nightmare for the U.S. in defense. And when we took on the Nations League team, it was like, this is peak U.S. This is the best players available. You're not getting guys who even at the MLS level aren't the best in their position in MLS. You know, Miles Robinson and Walker Zimmerman are big upgrades from Aaron Long, you know, for example. But going to your Herdman question, I'm kind of being convinced that he won't be our coach in 2026. I don't see the CSA firing him, though. He's been on record, not flat out saying it, but very much implying it, that he's not happy with the Federation. He's not happy with how they've managed things. So he's been a part of the Federation now for more than a decade. So he knows the in and outs of the Canadian Soccer Association, and now he's really seeing, the what's the term, like the crows come home to roost or whatever it is, because of how
hens, right?
piss poor managed the finances have been with Canada Soccer. Like he said, he called out the Nations League prep. Every other team had like 10-day camps. We had a 4-day camp. You have players flying back and coach instead of, getting business class and things like that. And then you have, our federation president coming out saying, yeah, you know what, we've talked about bankruptcy. And then, having to edit his words in another interview to, stop people from freaking out. It feels like Herdman's slowly getting fed up with the federation. And I feel a combination of a poor Copa America and further restrictions from Canada Soccer, and ultimately just having the media and the fan base just kind of be done with him. I could see a situation where if we go 3-0 at the Copa America, he resigns. After that. Before that, I'm not sure, but
Vince,
post-Copa America, maybe.
Before we move on, I do want to talk about one last thing with you, and that's when we were talking about that depth issue before, and you were talking about Herdman's maybe lack of playing some of the younger kids. I think it's important to realize that the only reason the USA is in the position they are now from a depth perspective, well, not the only reason, but one of the reasons that they have it, is that they had to play youth for the last 2 years. They've had to invest. They didn't have the veterans at the right level. So it was a long road, one that got us third in qualifying. We didn't breeze through qualifying. We didn't win qualifying. We were third place in qualifying, because between injuries to some players as well, like Pulisic and Reina. But I think Berhalter is in a position where he had to play youth for a number of reasons. And because he had to play so many young players, it's developed a pretty broad level of 25 and under depth of players.
Yeah. I think you can also, and this is not an excuse, but I think you can also point to some of the things that Berhalter had to, the choices he made were this idea of balancing throwing a bunch of kids into qualifying who had never been through the process and who were still pretty green as internationals, and not wanting to overwhelm them, just, like throwing out 11 guys with 5 caps or fewer or whatever. Obviously this is relative. Very few competitive environment matches for the United States. And so that's why Brooks and Leggett and Aaron Long and Tim Ream to start, because remember, Tim Ream was not a major part of qualifying. He only came back. That's my point, though. I think Berhalter went, this isn't a guy for qualifying, but I don't know if he put that note in the back of his head, this is a guy for the World Cup. But obviously that became the right choice when he brought Tim Ream back in for the World Cup, because the environment was a different environment at that point. I don't know. I mean, again, balancing out youth and veterans seems to be a problem that coaches really grapple with, especially in this region, because Mexico's going through the same thing right now that Canada and the United States did go through. Got anything else, Vince?
No, man, that's everything, man. Always good to talk to you guys. And, Jared, man, you got to show me some love, man. Canada's given you the gift of Raheem Edwards. So, you gotta show some love there.
I appreciate that, man. Like, he split 5 defenders on July 4th. So
you guys have a kinship too. Jared lives in a place named after a Canadian province.
I live in Ontario, baby.
Lives in. That's right. You tell me not to say the name of your town.
We both live in Ontario. Me and Vince.
You both live in Ontario. There you go. Vince, appreciate the call. I'm gonna let you go. There goes Vince. By the way,
good to have Vince on.
Just add Canada to the list of countries at the top of CONCACAF who don't like their coach very much. Oh, actually, that's not true. I think Jimmy Lozano probably still is relatively liked in Mexico, as opposed to Coca, who was
give him a game
loathed. Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's Mexico.
I think that is the situation right there. So we haven't really we talked about midfield, we talked about the back line. Let's talk about the U.S. attack for the game against Canada.
It's on fire.
You pointed out that Alex Zendejas, who has started has he started all 3 matches?
I believe so. I believe he did.
I don't think he's been impressive in the way I hoped he would be impressive. I'm not saying he's been bad, and I'm not saying that he hasn't done things off the ball that have been important, but his decision-making with the ball has been lacking, right? Cade Cowell's 19. We've seen him play a significant role in the group stage, but not necessarily be clearly a starter. Christian Roldan started against Trinidad and Tobago. Jordan Morris started against Jamaica. Obviously, he came out with that injury, or he ended that game with an injury, and I don't know what his status is. I don't think it's clear that he's going to be ready to play 90 minutes. against Canada. So what do you do? And then obviously I'm leaving open that question of the center forward, because how do you bench a guy who's off of back-to-back hat tricks, Jared? Can you possibly justify that?
No, you don't. Like, if for all the people that hate him, Jesus Ferreira would and should start every game of this Gold
I
Cup.
saw a lineup today. I won't say what online outlet proposed it, but I saw somebody suggest today that Brandon Vasquez should start in the middle and that Ferreira should play one of the wide forward positions.
Well, I think even BJ Callahan, I believe, has come on the record in one of his press conferences, says that it doesn't have to be one or the other. He thinks they both can play together up there.
That's true. He did say that. He said that after the game against Jamaica, where Vasquez came on.
The question is, do you move Ferreira from a position where he scored 6 goals in 2 games to fit Brandon Vasquez in and still
because
leave Jesus
Vasquez
Ferreira
can't play anywhere else. He
That's
doesn't
the
fit
only place he's
anywhere
gonna
else.
play.
Yes, right.
Maybe center back. I don't know.
Ferreira as the 10, right? But that's the job that Georgi Mihailovic has been doing, and I don't think I want to bench Georgi Mihailovic.
No, I don't. I don't think Jesus Ferreira. I mean, even though you saw in last game how deep towards the end of the game once Brandon Vasquez was on, because I don't think they came on for each other. I think Ferreira played the whole 90.
Actually, Ferreira came out against,
but they were on the field for a
TNT
while.
Earlier than he came out against. Yeah,
if I remember correctly, I believe he was on the same time as Vasquez. I remember thinking how deep Ferreira was going to get the ball and start the distribution of it. So I think up front, I think Alex Zendejas continues to start at that right side. I think you give the guy continue to give him the chance to fail. I think he's going to work through it. I think in moments he's shown what he can do. He just needs to try to do less. And that's something we've talked about Christian Pulisic at times as well. I think the talent's there. I think up front you start Cade Cowell and Jesus Ferreira.
Oh, you want Cal in the game to start? You want that?
I don't know who the other option is. You don't have Jordan Morris. You're gonna either put Jesus Ferreira out there. I think it has to be Cade Cowell right now, where the players are out there. Who else are you going to put Julian Gressel in?
I mean, again, could you imagine a situation where, let's see, I mean,
it would have to be Ferreira out there.
Where you push Georgie into a wide position on the other side from Zendejas, and then Ferreira, and then you put Christian Roldan in the midfield, something like that. Could you see that happening?
I don't think Christian. I think he played Christian Roldan at the winger spot last game, didn't he?
That they did, but that's another option, right? To your point, like
it's an option. I don't think it's a good one. It's an option.
What is it? I don't know whether the
reference.
Here's
no reason for Cade Cowell. I think there's a reason for Cade Cowell. I think Canada's going to be playing. I mean, they don't have Alistair back there, and they're not going to have their normal right back. I think the speed of Cade Cowell can expose some of the players on Canada. And also, Canadian players, a lot of them do have some speed in other positions. I think having Cade Cowell out there to match the pace that Canada may want to play with could be a good thing. He's green, but I think he's that type of green that's too dumb not to know he's green.
Jared, do you agree with my man Frank from the OC? He's taking a break from dealing with his girlfriend to give us this information. With all due respect, in capital letters, with all due respect, Ferreira scoring 6 goals against the Caribbeans, or the Caribbean, like me scoring 12 against 12-year-olds. If he scores 1 goal a game versus Jamaica or Mexico, now we are talking. Okay. I mean, look, he can only play the team in front of him.
Exactly.
It's not his fault that it was St. Kitts and Nevis and Trinidad and Tobago. I will point out that he played the ball, and it didn't end up going directly to Brandon Vasquez, but he obviously created the danger that ended up with the ball in the net against Jamaica, which I think was important. That's a good ball. It's a dangerous ball, a little clipped-in ball like that. I'm not saying that Jesus Ferreira should start for the U.S. men's national team in a Copa America. No. I'm not saying you should necessarily go to the World Cup in 2026, although that's 3 years away, so who knows what will happen between now and then. I just don't think that people should hate on him.
It's almost not about the fact he has 6 goals. It's about the fact that between Brandon Vasquez and Jesus Ferreira at a position of striker where confidence is almost as important as ability at times.
Yeah.
Who's confident right now?
Yeah.
Jesus Ferreira is confident right now.
Whether
he should be or not, he is.
The U.S. has played these kind of nations, kind of countries, the entire modern history of the team, right? They've done it since the 80s, playing against Trinidad and Tobago and St. Kitts and Nevis. And you can obviously point out in Barbados and teams like that, right? And you can say, well, maybe Trinidad's way worse than they used to be. Sure, that's fair. I get it, right? They're really in a down moment down in TNT, and it sucks. I kind of want to see them get better. But the great goal scorers of the U.S. men's national team, the Eric Winaldas, the Clint Dempseys, the Josie Altidores, the Landon Donovans, they've all played these teams, and they've never done back-to-back hat tricks. Who did I leave out? Brian McBride? McBride. Sorry, I didn't mean not leave out Brian McBride. But that's what I'm saying. Like, this is a guy who is doing the job asked of him and doing it as well as you could possibly do it.
Yep.
And if he doesn't score against Canada, it doesn't mean that he had a horrible Gold Cup and he's a trash player and it proves everybody was right about him. It depends. Obviously, we want to see him put in a good performance, but I think you have to give him credit where it's due.
Can you remember, because you and I have been around this team for a long time.
Yeah.
Do you remember any player
that
the fan base rooted so adamantly against
when
they're giving you what you're supposed to give you?
I think there's a phenomenon happening where the way that our online existence works now, that this stuff is louder and kind of out there more. It's just like there are more people. First of all, there's more fans for the national team than ever before, which is a good thing. More people who care. There are fewer people who remember the history of this team. That's a thing that happens with generational shifts. It's just the way it is. I just think that people. I think people are louder right now.
Here's the thing. I would maybe understand a little bit if Balogun and Pepe were sitting on the bench right now and he was choosing to play Ferreira. You know, like they're not there.
Yeah. Right.
And I just put this up from Jackie. In MLS, Ferreira has 10 goals. Vasquez has 4.
Right.
It's like he's picking the informed striker in a number of different ways.
The guy is a good finisher who hasn't done it against top nations. I think that's a fair thing to say.
That is an absolutely fair thing to say. And that is his burden to bear and convince people otherwise.
Absolutely.
But you're not going to play many of those in the Gold Cup, at least not till now.
No, you're not. No. And maybe if there's a Mexico final and Jesus Ferreira starts, he'll have an opportunity to prove himself against Mexico. And maybe some people will diminish it. I don't really care, because if he scores in the Gold Cup final, good chance we get a trophy out of it. And I'd be cool with that. Now, let me finish up this kind of Gold Cup discussion, because, again, I do think it's important to remember this is a tournament you want to win on its own merits. No, it's not Copa America. It's not a World Cup. It is, of course, because it diminished in some people's minds because of the team that the U.S. called up, right? Even if Mexico called up a stronger team relative to their pool than the U.S., even Jamaica called up a very strong team, adding Damari Gray, having Leon Bailey, having Michael Antonio. This is still in a lot of American fans' minds a second-rate tournament. Who cares if we win it? I care. I care if we win it. I want a Gold Cup. Yeah. I want continental supremacy. I want to be able to say you couldn't beat our B team for a second time in a row. Like, you couldn't beat it. It's what are you talking about?
It's like when you see your ex and you're already with a new person.
Right. I think people need to stop diminishing the tournament in their minds on something, because I think if you say, hey, why did you call up a guy who's got 25 caps instead of a guy 0 caps? You're diminishing the tournament, right? I think that's a fair thing to say. But there is also something to be said for this tournament being a bit of an audition. There's an Olympic team next year. Not all these guys are eligible. Some of them are. And obviously Copa America. So is there anybody here making a case? You know, maybe it's Ferreira as the third striker behind Balogun and Pepe. Maybe it's, I don't know. Is there anybody here where you're like, okay, I'm starting to see maybe Copa America in your future in 2024?
Yeah, I think, and once again, I don't think any of these that we're talking about is probably potentially being starters, but in terms of making the squad, being a squad player for Copa America, yeah. And I think,
by the way, I'm sorry. I want to respond to people.
Are you sorry?
I'm not sorry, but I got to respond to people. This is KY718. I don't think people are rooting against Ferreira, just don't want him playing with the first team, and some are trying to use these performances to justify him being in the A team. Nobody's doing that with Ferreira and Balogun in the mix.
No. I think this is fair, actually. I think this is fair, because when people say the A team, they assume starter. Those aren't the same things. The A team, you're taking 3 strikers likely.
Maybe.
Okay?
Yeah, sure.
Jesus Ferreira is legitimately the third choice. And here's why. Not because, and people think this is he's the third best. It's not that he's the third best. Pepe and Ferreira Balogun are definitely your 2 best strikers. There's a conversation to be had after that. The reason why he is the third striker on the A squad is because he's different than those 2.
Let's remember that there was no striker, even Ricardo Pepi, right? Because remember when the World Cup happened relative to his scoring at Groningen, off his bad season, the horrible experience at Augsburg and all that. There was no striker going into the World Cup. You're like, that's our guy. That's our starter. He's got to be in every game.
No.
Ferreira
and
Balogun is that guy now.
For
right?
sure.
Sun's out, Balogun's out because he's that guy.
Write him in pen.
On that.
Write
And
him in
I'm
pen.
okay. I'm absolutely cool with Ricardo Pepi pushing for that role because it means he's scoring goals and certainly being the guy off the bench to change up when Balogun's run out of gas.
Let me ask a question, Jason. Were Jason McBride and Joe Max Moore? Brian McBride is the better striker of those two guys.
Sure.
But Joe Max Moore was often in the team as well. You know why? Because he was a different type of striker.
Right,
You have different guys that do different things. Just because Brian McBride's there doesn't mean you're not maybe going to have Landon Donovan or Clint Dempsey.
I just think
different
again,
styles.
Some of this is results based analysis. Oh, Ferreira didn't play great against the Dutch in the World Cup, or whatever. Haji Wright didn't have a good World Cup, scored a goal against the Dutch, whatever that was, if you call it that. Sargent wasn't. The idea that if only Greg had called other striker, things would have been different. That's unprovable.
Sure.
You cannot know that for sure. You cannot tell me that Ricardo Pepi would have been better to start against Holland than Jesus Ferreira, or even any of the other guys that were in that team going into the World Cup. And this is what you're talking about with depth, right? Because 6 months ago, we didn't have Fowler and Balogun, or 7 months ago, whatever it was. We didn't have Fowler and Balogun. We didn't have a confident Ricardo Pepi. We didn't have Jesus Ferreira. He had a good season in MLS, I guess, 18 goals, whatever. Got him into the World Cup team. But I don't think he was even the player he is now. I think he's improved on some level. Again, no one's saying start Jesus Ferreira against Brazil in a Copa America. No one's saying
I
that.
want these problems. I want these problems where you have Flo Balogun, you have Ricardo Pepi, and maybe, just maybe, Jesus Ferreira all on form.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you? Have Josh Sargent and Haji Wright. Haji Wright's a double-digit goal scorer last year in Europe, and we're not even talking about him. That's a good problem to have, man.
Yeah, don't know where he's going to play. And speaking of that, let's spend some time on player movement a bit. I mean, we it's a lot of shrug. We got Tim Weahs going to Juve. I read today Joe Lowry at Backfield is writing that based on the tea leaves and based on even what Tim Weah himself has said, it looks like wing back at Juve for Tim Weah. Does that bother you? He seems committed.
I've watched enough Juve to know how they see that position. Quadrado was constantly in the offense. In the offense. If they play him the same way they play Quadrado, there's going to be no shortage of offense for Tim Weah to have at that team. They play a very aggressive right wing back position if they keep the same style as they were before. I don't like the name. I don't like the idea of him playing a bunch of defense and going into tackles and stuff like that. But he's not going to be shy on going forward and penetrating runs or anything like that. He's still going to be doing a lot of stuff we want him to do with the U.S. men's national team, just from a deeper position.
Okay. I mean,
because it's Juventus, assuming they use him the same way they did Quadrado.
Well, and I also think that his versatility is a selling point for Allegri, and I think that he is
Wes
good
McKennie.
enough.
Why do you like Wes McKennie?
Right. I think he's good enough that when he comes back into the national team fold and you say, okay, you're a forward again, it's not like Tim Weah is going to be like, what? I don't remember how to be a forward. That's not going to happen. Speaking of Serie A, we've got the Christian Pulisic thing getting closer but not yet done.
Revised bid the recent link went out.
Looks like it. I think that he's got a lot to prove. I think a lot of people probably around world football are maybe soured on him. Injuries are a part of the story. We know that. I think he's probably good enough to do something at AC Milan. Obviously, Rafael Leao plays on the left, and you're not pushing him out of that position. So I don't know exactly where Pulisic lines up in that team, or how much.
Play a right-footed player that plays on the right. Imagine that.
Yeah, sure. It could very well be that. Could play through the middle at some points. We'll see with that. What else is out there that again, McKennie to Dortmund has been mentioned and then put a kibosh on it and then mentioned again. I'm not sure where that is.
Yeah, it seems like McKennie and Musa are popping up the most places right now. Musa popping up with AC Milan as well as a potential destination. It's interesting. I almost don't. You had mentioned that you had been in the pre-show. You had mentioned that you had gone to one of the USA subreddits or something like that, or you went to AC Milan subreddit. And
I went to US Soccer subreddit, and they were talking about what the AC Milan subreddit was saying about Christian Pulisic, because that's how the internet works these days.
And saying what?
They're all hate the idea. They don't want Pulisic. They're all soured on him before he even steps on the field.
I'm almost like, you know what? I don't know anymore that teams don't want the American player. I think they don't want the American fan in their socials.
Well, let's not presume that those AC Milan fans are all American.
Do you want Leeds 2 in the Serie A? Do you want Musa to end
I
up there?
want
and
Pulisic, Musa, and who else was connected to AC Milan?
there's
Somebody
someone
else.
who
Who
was
was the third
connected.
player?
I can't remember what it was. There was a third player connected though. I don't know why.
Somebody's
gonna
gonna remember who that third player was, and we'll be like, oh yeah, that guy. Let's not forget that Jedi Robinson was almost a Milan player, and then had to go back because of the
heartbeat
heart
away.
issue. Yeah. Maybe it was Balogun. It was Balogun.
Yeah, it was Balogun. Yeah.
Look, I'm okay with. Look, I was excited about McKennie, Adams, and Aronson at Leeds, but I also had that knowledge. Okay, this is a struggler, right? This is a club that's going to be fighting for its life all year long. It's not the best case scenario.
And those aren't the Ferraris of the team. They're not the Rodrigos of the team.
Well, I did think Tyler Adams was probably better than Leeds. If that's
no, what
I'm
saying is that when you talk about like Christian Pulisic and Flo Balogun, they are the players that are style-wise the Ferraris of the team.
No, sure, I get it. I think that no matter what
the other
happens,
guys, they're industry guys. We know that they're industry guys coming in.
Almost no matter what happens, AC Milan's going to be fighting at least for a Champions League spot, right? We know that they're going to be in the Champions League again this year. Yeah. So in that sense, I know there's pressure, right? There's pressure to perform in a kind of different way at Milan than there would be at, well, I guess it's, I don't know, relegation versus winning the Scudetto or doing well in the Champions League. I like it. I don't know. I like it. Pulisic hooking up with Balogun. Let's get a lot of that, please. Like I'm ready for Musa to Pulisic to Balogun. Goal. Let's do it.
I'm down for 2 or 3. Don't give me all 3. I mean, it makes my TV watching on the weekend easy. I like that about Leeds. I always knew which game I was going to watch.
So this is putting all your too many eggs in one basket. You
I'm
don't want to
nervous that
basket?
Balogun's going to end up at Arsenal. I'm getting nervous he's going to end up at Arsenal.
He is part of the Arsenal team for the skills challenge at the All-Star game, Jared.
Now, that is also good marketing on your team coming through the USA.
Is it? Because Matt Turner's not playing in it. He's not part of the skills challenge.
What, you think he's going to go out there trying to hit a ball through a hoop?
No, what? No, I'm saying that there are the goalkeepers. The goalkeepers are part of this because Roman Berkey is part of the MLS. I think it's Tyler Miller because Wayne Rooney's a crazy person.
He is coming off 2 tournaments.
No, he is. You're right. He probably
vacation.
deserves a break. But I'm saying if it was pure marketing, you say, Matt, it's just a skills challenge. Just, do your thing.
I think Balogun's move doesn't come out till after that, and there's going to be a lot of rumors
That's
then.
Probably.
But is that where you want him to end up, or do you want him out of there? Let's be honest. If Jesus is healthy, he's second.
No, sure. Well,
or
yeah.
At best second, excuse me. At best second.
Yeah, at best second, and with Nketiah there too. I think he's good enough that he might be able to at some point prove himself and get into the team and score some goals for Arsenal, but I don't think it's the ideal.
Best case scenario, 15 to 20 games?
Yeah, something like that.
Is that enough?
25 appearances probably. Maybe he gets he gets cup starts, he gets there may be a couple of he'll get 3 or 4, maybe 5 Premier League
Jesus
starts.
Has been injured from time to time too.
I mean, there's that. I don't know. I like the idea of American and Arsenal playing, a significant, important position. But I think the playing time issue is a question.
I don't know, man. No. If it was an American at West Ham, I'd be just as happy.
There's been talk about Tyler at West Ham because they got to replace Declan Rice.
I just want Balogun someplace where he is I just want that for all the Americans.
Can we bring in the guy? Can we bring Nicholas Soup and Salad into this show? We haven't talked to him yet.
He wants him at Man U, probably.
I think I'm still like Cincinnati.
We don't have a forward. He would be that guy.
This is the guy?
He would be.
This is Man U's guy?
Do you think he'd be the guy?
Right now, there are no forwards.
Is he a big enough name for Man U? Because at Arsenal, we're talking about second guy.
We are talking about him playing a reserve role at Arsenal or going off somewhere that's a lower level club with less ambition.
What I don't want is Man U to bring him to be the second guy and sell jerseys to Americans. That's what I don't want, and that's why I don't want Arsenal either.
But I don't know who I don't know who they're going to get. They can't afford Harry Kane. They're probably going to get priced out of this Rasmus Højlund guy from Atalanta. They're going to have to.
What's the number? Because what's the number attached to Balogun right now? 40,
50.
45?
I think they put 50 on him. I think Arsenal put 50 on him this week.
If Arsenal is saying that we won't sell him for less than 50, Arsenal doesn't want to sell him.
No, I can't remember if it was 50 US or 50 euro. I'm sorry. I did see 50 this week, though.
If it's 50 million pounds, there's no way. There's no way it's 50 million pounds for Balogun. So somebody tell me what Valerian Balogun's price tag is. That's something I need to know. But also, there have been, this is one of those transfer saga things. Like, Arsenal says go find a club because you are, if you really are intent on playing time, you're not going to get it here. So you better go. And what puts the onus on the player to go find a suitor that will stump up the 45 is what Jackie is saying. Which
So
again,
that's
pounds,
pounds.
euros, dollars. What
I
is
think
that? Which
United
one
would be willing to pay 45 for him versus the 80 that it'll cost to get Hoyland.
Okay.
And
Okay.
start Balogun.
He would be the starter.
Man,
I read
how
this
do you think
week-
the
I
Man U
read-
base would deal with that?
Can we?
though?
Well, if Taylor,
But he's also-
if Taylor Booth ends up at United, let's. I don't know if that's happening. That's not happening.
So
I just keep reading it.
There was a piece
that
on The
he's-
Athletic this week by Carl Inca, who covers United, and he was going over the next best options for a Harry Kane-like player, since they
Okay.
can't get Harry Kane. And
Right.
he went through a database of players, and the first player on the list was Folarin Balogun.
You know what's interesting, right? Is that there was a time when United would have been in the mix for, the established 28 to 33. I mean, that's what Harry Kane is, obviously. But, I mean, even deeper. But we don't even have, Kareem. I know Kareem Benzema's 35 or whatever. But if Kareem Benzema wasn't going to stay at Real Madrid 5 years ago, United might be able to say, hey, come play for us, right? But now Saudi Arabia has screwed the market, and you're not getting Kareem Benzema to come play for for you, right?
Exactly.
2 years with
would,
Benzema?
would they have gotten Zlatan 5 years ago or whenever that was when they
Right.
had Zlatan at Man
Right.
U?
Well, yeah, I guess he does fit that.
That was pre-knee
profile.
injury.
Yeah.
Pre-knee injury.
It was pre-knee injury, right? That was Mourinho period, right?
Yeah.
Yes,
Right
exactly.
period.
Yeah.
So yes, if it was me, I'm after reading Carl's piece, I was on board. Yes, United fans may not like it, but you got to remember he's also English, so I don't think.
Whoa!
that-
I thought he was American.
He's American as apple pie, that dude.
Right.
Did you see him shirtless at the Chick-fil-A? Y'all see that?
No, I did not.
You didn't see the
That's-
picture of him
that's-
shirtless at a Chick-fil-A.
No, I did not see that.
The most American thing. That's the best
is.
picture since Brick Shea.
It is.
Look, the dream is to get the Suns
Nick,
out.
you gotta find that and
Balaguns
put that
out.
on the film.
I will
The dream
see
is
what I can do.
the Suns out Balaguns out tank top into the hands of Folarin Balogun so he can rock it at Chick-fil-A.
I think this is a sensible
my
take
God.
right here from Kai 719. He says, "I don't think United can sign and start Arsenal's third."
Well,
string
so but
forward."
to okay, that's probably true from a perception standpoint, and as Nick said, you'll piss off the
Perception, yeah.
fans. But if you don't have any other options, right? Like if you've painted yourself into a corner. Like what was the plan? A month ago, coming out of the season, what was the plan, or whatever it was? Right out of the season, Nick. What was the thought about what they were going to do? Just Harry Kane? It was all the eggs were in the Harry Kane basket.
Everybody was on board with Harry Kane, myself included. I was like, all right, let's go. You pay the $100 million. He's in the last year of his deal.
Take that a loan against Old Trafford. It's all good.
Right.
How many more years does Harry Kane have in him, though? 1, 2?
This is a good shout from our man up in Canada. Jonathan David's out there. Now
Yep.
he's going to cost you roughly the same, if not more,
True.
than Balogun, and he's been a consistent goal scorer. Balogun's got one good year under his belt. I know he's good, but David's been doing it for a couple of years now.
I'm with you there. The reason if I'm United, and again, they're not going to do this because they're idiots, but I would approach look, he's realistically, how much is he going to play for Arsenal this year?
Yeah.
Well, I don't want him
don't
there.
know.
Yeah, I don't want him
So,
there.
so Jackie is saying Arsenal wants a £35 million loan fee or a £50 million transfer fee.
Yeah, but he doesn't want to go back on loan.
No, I know. That's why they're telling him go find a club, because we're basically like, we can't guarantee you playing time because of Jesus and because of Nketiah. So, yeah.
$50 million.
go
is
find a
bargain.
club. You think? Wow.
They're getting priced out for this dude from Atalanta who's had one good season. He's 20.
No.
And he's
Here's
gonna
a
be 80 million
basic
pounds?
question. Basic question from BMR 209. Is Balogun good enough for United?
I don't think anybody knows, though.
Did you see who they were putting it forward last year? Wout Weghorst? Come on, he's better than him.
That was a joke. That was a joke.
Exactly.
He's got more of a.
Give me Balogun.
Weghorst has more success on his resume. He scored more goals as a professional and all that. But yeah,
Give me
there's
Balogun.
something to that. Okay.
Nick's
try
on
and
the
find that
Nick's,
Chick-fil-A.
Nick's on the yeah. Maybe we bring that up in the bonus because I don't know if we're gonna have time.
Get
to do
that.
it, but-
Get that Chick-fil-A. Do we need to tell? It wasn't on a Sunday. He's got to know, right? Can't get Chick-fil-A.
Yeah, it was
on
on a Sunday. You can't be shirtless in a Chick-fil-A on a Sunday.
I think I would prefer Fowler and Balogun shirtless at a Waffle House over shirtless at a Chick-fil-A.
You know,
My
at the bonus
opinion.
show, we should name a player, and what restaurant would you find them shirtless in?
What restaurant would you most likely find a player this player shirtless in? That's
Yes.
a good Christian Pulisic. Go ahead. Christian Pulisic. Shoot out. Good. Tell me.
Applebee's.
Oh, I could see that. Okay. Man, I think,
So, let's see. I'm gonna let's give
Bennigan's
you.
went out of business, so I can't say Bennigan's. Might be Bennigan's. You know what? Christian Pulisic, shirtless at a
Okay, what about Tim Weah?
Tim Weah. Tim
High
Weah
class.
shirtless. Yeah. Well, but the thing, he's not.
You can't
He's
be
a
shirtless in
classy
a high
guy.
class place though.
That's the thing, and Tim Weah knows better because he's got style. That Tim Weah.
Because he's
Tim
got enough
Weah-
clout. Can he pull a Waffle House? He can't
Shirtless,
pull a Waffle House.
shirtless at a Sabaro. Tim Weah. I don't know why. Just came to mind.
Sbarro at the mall?
No, it doesn't have to be the
Hot dog on a stick?
That's not Sbarro.
I think Tim
That's not
Weah
Sbarro.
is shirtless at a Panda.
Pulisic shirtless at a Wawa. Technically not a restaurant. They serve food. I know they have a counter. They make sandwiches, but
Oh,
not
you
a
definitely
restaurant.
find people shirtless at a Wawa.
Oh, shirtless at
just
a Wawa
Pulisic.
all day, every day of the week.
I don't think it's
Every
required
day of the
there.
week. No, if you ever spotted Christian Pulisic shirtless at a Sheets, there's a problem. Something's gone wrong. The matrix has gotten fried or something because he's definitely Wawa and not.
I'm saying
Sheetz.
Tim Weah is shirtless at a Panda Express.
Tim Weah shirtless at a Panda Express.
He's cultured.
Okay.
He's got foreign foods.
Okay. McKenny, Weston McKennie shirtless at a Buc-ee's. That's again a gas station. How about Weston McKennie shirtless at a Famous
no.
Dave's?
No,
Famous
no.
Dave's.
Wes
No
McKinney
texting
shirtless at a Golden Corral buffet. All you could eat soft serve, baby.
Oh man, Golden Corral. You put him on Golden Corral. I don't even know if there are any good buffets.
Hometown
anymore.
buffet. You know,
Golden Corral might.
they
be
have
the
those out
only
there.
one.
I don't know. Oh, there's the Balogun picture.
Shirtless in basketball shorts at a Chick-fil-A.
That dude is doing America right now.
Damn. What's that? What is that like a? What's that jersey that I see over there? What's that other dude wearing? Who is that other dude?
That
first of all?
is that Arsenal
that-
actually?
No, I think
No,
that's
it's a championship.
It's Umbro. Whatever it is, it's Umbro.
yeah. Who's that championship club that's got like a horse on their badge? It's not It's
AFC
not
Richmond?
Luton. Not Luton. They're the tractor guys or whatever, right? Who is that?
I don't know. We'd have
Somebody's
pull
gonna
it up
figure
to
that
see.
out.
I don't know.
This is good. Weston McKennie
Is this
shirtless
how-
at a Dave and Buster's. That's the must. That's incredible. That's perfect.
Just handfuls of plushies, like armfuls of plushies.
Just knocking them down at the Papa Shot. Just like killing it at the Papa Shot. Weston McKennie.
Oh, is it Ipswich?
It is.
Is
Shout
that
out
how
to
is that how Balogun leaks where he's going? That's how he linked. He was going to the
That's-
USA.
That's crazier than what's the character? Oh shit! I broke it. I broke the joke. The character from Ted Lasso, the Zlatan Ibrahimovic like character.
Zuba or Zava.
Zava to AFC Richmond. That's the level. Balogun to Ipswich Town is like Zava to AFC Richmond. There you go.
Yeah,
right,
Ipswich,
man.
man. That's what it was.
All right. What other business is there left to conduct? You want to talk about Neymar to NYCFC?
Can I just gloat about the Rose Bowl for a second?
The fact that your team won the game, or the fact that 80,000 people showed up? Which one?
Both.
Okay.
You know, listen, here's the thing. Shout out to Galaxy fans. Shout out to LAFC fans for just making one of the best rivalries out there. I mean, that is.
They do
I'll
a
tell you
good
this too. In addition to just selling that place out, I can't tell you how many times I heard people talking about, I know someone's at that game. I know someone's at that game. Everyone's talking about that game here in LA.
Good. That's great. That's good. It's made the rounds. The news about that game. I will say, I think I'm pretty safe in saying that there are some players I like in this league. Ricky Puig is my favorite player.
Dude,
he's
Ricky
my
Puig
favorite player.
He is just, you can't not watch him, dude.
It's not even about necessarily how good he is, but being good is important.
I have a buddy who just recently started watching Angel City games. Like for his sister-in-law got season tickets, and he started going there. So he got into the game through the women's game here in LA. And so for some reason he's watching that game because this game draws. Even though he just kind of watches Angel City and goes to those
it's
games.
an LA event.
So
LA
he
event,
texts me in the show. He's like, "Who's the dude in the pink boots?" And obviously, I'm colorblind. I had to ask someone who's the guy. Turns out it's Ricky Puig. But that's even to a guy like that, the guy that pops. That he's having to ask me who's the dude in the pink boots. That dude may be the best ball handler in this league since who? or ever? Like, is there a better ball handler that's been in this league?
So for me, the two best possession midfielders in MLS are Darlington Nagbe and Ricky Puig, and I don't think it's
David
close.
Ferreira. David Ferreira is really good.
No, I'm talking about now.
Oh, now.
This is
Excuse me.
now.
I meant all time.
Yeah,
I meant all time because I think that's the conversation with Ricky.
You
Puig.
gonna put him on all time? Jesus.
I mean, who's better with the ball that you remember? Like,
I have to really rack my brain.
I mean, if you
and
go into
through
the forward,
history.
like get out of the midfield, Thierry Henry's better with the ball, maybe like than that. But he's playing from a different position.
Yeah, but Thierry Henry is a glider, and Ricky Puig is I will
Puig
dribble
just
you
beats
out,
dudes.
circles around
The
you.
first touch out of pressure, he's gone, and then that 60-yard run beating 3 dudes to like a game-winning goal. Taylor Tim was right. I mean, a lot of people give Taylor Tim a crap. That dude wanted him more. That was a great call on the broadcast.
No, it's a great run.
Dude wanted him more.
Absolutely. That's all that was. That was hustle and effort and all those
I think
things.
Elliot.
So,
I think Galaxy got a little bit lucky. I mean, Danny Bouanga like 2 months ago puts those away. There's something going on in his head right now. He's not the same person he was.
Something's off with LAFC in general, which happens when a team has a World Cup.
We see that every year. Seattle a year ago,
championship hangover, championship
Philly
Champions
this year
League.
a bit.
Yeah, I mean that's Champions League stuff too. I think they'll be okay, but they're just not going to hit the heights that they did last year. I mean, Bouanga could still find it, and we got the Leagues Cup coming up, and we're doing weird stuff. The Leagues Cup. Do you know about this?
What is that?
I don't know. It's a competition between MLS and Mexican clubs.
Another one?
Yeah, BJ Callahan. Another one. Another one. Now, Valderrama's a good shout for that. I want to real quick before I forget, because this is how my brain works. If I don't do it now, I want to shout out.
OMFBG13, it's JTT!
Who? He's not here. He's not calling, but I do want to recognize the man's getting sent down to go to the World Cup to cover the Women's World Cup. NBC, all this doing stuff. I think it was NBC, right? As I saw his.
I thought say that. Yeah.
Yeah. Shout out to JT. That guy works harder covering American soccer than pretty much anybody.
And I want to put this shout out there too. Like his content will be behind the wall in the Philly Inquirer, and we need to support guys like that. So go out there. It may be behind a wall. If there's a guy out there that you're going to support, let it be JTT, man. The guy that's doing it for the people.
Yeah. Again, he's been great to me as a colleague over the years and stuff. Obviously, he's been a big part of this show. He stepped in and hosted Soccer Morning back in the days when my kid was in the hospital. I'm a big fan of JTT. Super happy to see him get this opportunity.
I'm stoked he's going someplace where his sandals would be the appropriate footwear.
It's wintertime down there.
Oh, it is, huh? Damn.
Sorry,
JTT, cover them toes.
Yeah, he's gonna have to get some coverage. Okay, what other businesses out there? Feel like I'm missing something.
Patreon for the bonus show. We're gonna get into it a little bit.
We're gonna do bonus show. Nick's gonna tell us what he's been drinking. We'll tell stories about beach houses and 4th of July celebrations.
Hell yeah.
We maybe have an idea. I don't think it's going to happen on this bonus show because I don't think we're prepared for it. But we're talking about, and this is in the pre-roll. So if you want the pre-roll conversation, you also got to go to the Patreon, patreon.com/thebestsoccershow. I think maybe Jason and Jared react could be a future segment.
Oh, we've talked about that. Yeah. Like, why aren't we reacting to things? Why aren't we?
We should be reacting.
Clicks?
I think you and I should be
clicks?
Reacting to stuff. If you guys have stuff you want us to react to.
I can make stupid faces for thumbnails. Like
you already have.
Oh, Nick! Dang it! Nick is gonna clip that.
Nick is already.
I forgot that Nick's wife has the ability to clip stuff.
I'm just working through.
I can do it too.
Yeah, you're gonna draw like a Sharpie penis next to my mouth or something. I know you are.
Well, thanks for the idea.
All right. Al, that's all the business. I think the important business that we've got to do. So let's go off to the bonus show, patreon.com/thebestsoccershow if you want the bonus content. Jared, any other things? Anything else?
Get on that Patreon, support this show.
All right, guys. We'll talk to you next week. Bye.
The Sausage King of Chicago.
Oh, it's incredible! Go to DEFCON 2.
Michael fucking Oscar for sale.
I think I'm starting to like Cincinnati.
What are we doing?
The horror show.
Oh, baby! Get to the chopper!
Calm down, Greg. It's soccer. It's soccer.
Who asked those questions?
Danger zone.
It was there. Oh, here we go. Saucing them up. Hit them. Wet.
Okay, assholes. Sun's out, guns out.
Jay Rodius.